fulfilled. And indeed, the quality, most importantly, the quality of life of people who live in cities is kind of improved. So without further ado, I'll just quickly introduce the panel. On the left extreme is Anshul Mishra. He's a IAS, currently Additional Director, AIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. But Anshul before that was in Tamil Nadu. He's an IAS officer with over 2 decades of experience in local and state and central government. He served as a MD of the Tamil Nadu Urban Habitat Development Board and looking at the housing renewal and other development projects. And he was also the member secretary of Chennai Municipal Corporation. Those of you who don't know, it's the oldest municipal corporation in India. He helped the third master plan for Chennai. He's a urban planner by training. So it'll be lovely to hear his views on how he sees AI intersecting with some of the work on urban and also specifically on planning. I have Jambi Edul Behram on the right extreme. He's a director of business development, global public sector at NVIDIA. We just having a conversation before, and I was asking him the history of his name. He has a very interesting history to his name. He went to America and his name changed. And he is responsible for driving adoption of AI in the cities and local governments. He works with the extensive ecosystem that NVIDIA has and provides a broad range of applications. And of course, NVIDIA is really one of the powering forces behind the AI kind of revolution we are seeing. And I think really working with governments to see how AI can be used as a force for agency, for equity, and for easing how people experience cities. I think that's his passion. So we'll love to hear your views on that. I have Mashal on my left, Mashal Dhawan. Mashal is the CEO of Asia SEW. Is a vertical AI platform for energy, water, connecting customers, workforce, and grid assets in a one cloud-native foundation. She leads companies' most strategic regions, driving organization mission to engage, educate, and empower billions of people to save energy and water globally. We're in Delhi. I grew up in Delhi, and water remains a huge concern in most of the growing cities in India. It's improved, but we have a long distance to go. Energy and conserving energy is really critical. So we'll love to hear your views on that. And finally, I have Ujjwal on my right. He's the CEO of Quantum Alliance. Ujjwal Kumar builds what AI runs on, very simply. So he's the CEO of Quantum Alliance. He works to secure the critical minerals, energy, and supply chains that underpin AI infra, from semiconductors in smart city sensors to the rare earth in data centers magnets. He also co-founded Cognizy AI, pioneering humanity-aligned intelligence that preserves human wisdom, learns continuously, and augments human judgment. So I think will be very interesting in some of the philosophical questions around wisdom and all those kind of things around AI. So I think I'll just briefly take a couple of minutes to talk about the context and why this is an important subject to talk about today. I think after a long time, the economic survey, which is the precursor to the Indian budget, featured urban as a sector, specifically cities as a sector, and in India as a part of economic growth. And I think that is because if you look at India today, we are about 30-35% urbanized. But by 2036, we'll have at least 600 million people living in the cities. So I think the growth today, I think 80% of the GDP is contributed by the urban centers, and 40% of the population lives here. So clearly, from a growth perspective, from a perspective of how we get on a path of development and move towards what we call Viksit Bharat, a developed India, cities are hugely critical. And I think one of the things which is very interesting about cities, and we'll love to hear the views from the panel, is cities are not just where people live. Cities are actually where people interact, transact, and exchange values. So therefore, I think how they the proximity, people get together, there's densification, there's value exchange, and there's economic growth, and it creates opportunities. I come from Bangalore, and I've seen in 25 years, no matter how much we talk about the bad traffic and everything, but anybody who lands in Bangalore, lands a job. Whether you're a software engineer or you are a watchman or a office boy, there's so many opportunities because there is economic density there. So that's super critical. And India is deeply urban already, in terms of economic terms. National GDP, most of the contribution comes from cities. The startups, we've seen the startup culture in various cities. And I was talking to Gumby before this in terms of some of the AI startups he's meeting, and he's saying some of the innovation which is happening in some of these companies, he's not seen anywhere else in the world. So I think they're really a kind of a growth vector, both in terms of economy and innovation. I think equally what makes cities great also creates problems. And I don't want to dwell too much on it, but we have urban flooding. We have, every year there's some record on how hot it is or how wet it is or how cold it is, right? Recently we had a flood in Bangalore, and I live in the heart of the city, and our basement got flooded. That's the first time it rained 200 mm in 1.5 hours in the history of, they kept the record. So climate challenges, challenges around mobility, traffic, challenges around equity, if you live in a elite area, you're consuming 350 liters per day, and just next door, there's an informal settlement, and they're hardly getting 10, 15 liters, and there's a queue up. So I think all these things put pressure on the migration to the cities, puts pressure on the infra, put pressure on the equity, put pressure on the delivery of public services. So I think there is a deeper, institutional thinking that we need to do, and I'd love to get Anshul's view on that. How do you create institutional structures which can, rather than working in silos, they can actually see cities as one, city as one, citizen as a one, and deliver services they need in a very, very frictionless manner. And the interesting thing about India is, if you look at the banking, if you look at e-commerce, that's already happening, right? So how does public services infra becomes much more much more accessible, much more equitable, and much more efficient, for the citizens who live in the cities. So I think I'll pause here and try and bring in the panel. The format is they have their own areas of expertise and interest. I'd like them to talk about what their view is in terms of the intersection of AI and urban. What is emerging? What do they see as the key things which can make cities a real the growth vector, and also most importantly, ultimately, whatever is done in cities and urban India should lead to better quality of life for people who live there. I think I'd love for you to, of course, we can talk about how cool, some of the emergent technologies are, but would love to hear their views on how does it change how businesses, how citizens, how residents experience the city. So without further ado, I think I'll go to Anshul first. Anshul, you have worked in the government. You are an urban planner. You have worked in one of the largest, cities in India. I'd love to hear views on, from a planning perspective, right? And you see it up close and personal. How do you think AI can, add to that? Secondly, would love to hear your views on, of course, AI is no longer a software. It's like an infra. It's already infra. How do you see institutionally what can governments do so that this infra can be utilized in a frictionless manner and leads to better services, better infra, better experience for the citizens? So over to you, Anshul.
Thank you, Viraj. Very good morning to all of you. So we all know AI, is a very important technology disruption, which is going to impact the entire society. And of course, it will impact the urban planning, it will impact urban governance, the way we govern the cities, the way we run the cities. Now the challenge is how to use this tool to make our cities more efficient, run them more efficiently, and try to solve some problems which are persisting for a very long time in the urban sector. Definitely, it is a golden opportunity for the cities to integrate AI tools in their daily governance and also in future planning. As a planner, I can tell you that the way planning happens in the country, it's kind of semi-manual. It is based on some haphazard data. There's lack of evidence. And of course, that leads to a very skewed data analysis, which does not lead you to a situation where you can plan for the cities well. So those are the challenges which every urban planner faces. The cities, the development authorities which are planning the cities, are preparing the master plans, they're facing all of that. So AI could be definitely a great tool in basically using the data which is available, and also giving a framework to collect data, sanitize it, assemble it, publish it, and maintain it. So that is where AI can be utilized. And AI can be used for not only for data analytics, to solve the problems of everyday urban life, but also it can predict. It can be used for simulation. It can be used for projections. And that's what urban planners do. So if you prepare a master plan, you basically prepare a future plan for a city for next 20, 30 years. And you need to do projections which are accurate. So unless you have this ability to assimilate data and analyze that from all angles, it is difficult. So as of now, it is done mostly in siloed kind of thing, and there's hardly any integration in data, data sets which are coming from various sectors. So that would be very, very useful, I suppose. The challenge here is that how to equip the workforce which is already there in the urban setup to use this tool. Now that is a challenge which will remain for every sector. But if we have to upskill the workforce, we have around 5,000 to 6,000 urban planners in the country, which is already a deficit. We need at least 12,000 planners according to Niti Aayog. So there's already a deficit, but if we can use this, the AI tools to enable these planners, upskill them and enable them, they can actually, it will be a multiplier. So that is also a very positive thing. The cities, they are facing these the problems every day regarding various services, and AI can be used in a real-time basis to utilize AI-driven data analytics to solve these problems, including mobility. There must multiple cities who are using it. I think one city in China is using it. Pune is using AI tool using RFID, etc., to organize the solid waste management. Surat is using, sorry, and Pune is also using for in their integrated command center for various things. So there are multiple uses which we can visualize regarding AI in urban governance. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Anshul. Fascinating, I think, what you talk about urban planning and the deficit we have and please, very interestingly, if you look at India, although we big cities, we are seeing a lot of build up, but when you look at where India will be in 10 or 15 years, there's still 50 to 60% built up, that needs to be still done. So that's where planning becomes really critical. And not just how you plan a master plan, but also how do you respond when things change. When a new SEZ comes in a east of Bangalore, how do you respond? How do you make your urban plan responsive? And that kind of nicely leads into Jambi, we talked about agentic AI over a coffee before this. So I guess, Jambi, it'll be great from a vantage point you have in NVIDIA, and you work with governments all across the world. We'd love to know from you what are the few emerging AI use cases that'll have a great impact on cities and futures, how they're built and run. And also, just as you look at the landscape, what can be done to unleash more value from AI on many fronts that you would have seen working with the government? So over to you, Jambi.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, I think some of the most exciting developments in terms of technology and AI applications are really in what we call physical AI. Because for the first time, the tools are available these days to do sort of three things that instrument intelligence in the physical world. And, cities are obviously part of the physical world, very important ones at that. So the first thing is perception. And, there are new technologies available now where sensors and cameras, et cetera, that collect information. In the old world, you had to have very discrete applications. So, for example, one application for traffic management, one application for safety security, one application for infrastructure management. Now, for example, on the vision perception side, we have vision language models. And in fact, you can see some of them in our partner booths on the show floor that allow you to query the real world and what's happening in the real world with just one, think of it as the video or the physical equivalent of a large language model. Then on the simulation side, as the speakers were talking about, it's very important to be able to visualize what's going to happen in the future. Now, finally, we have tools that will allow you to actually simulate what's going to happen in the real world in a real way, as opposed to just, a graphic display. So, for example, if you have a flood in the city, what's the impact going to be on the different areas? You can actually model that. One, which allows people to sort of collaborate to figure out, what they need to do. And two, of course, they need to be better prepared. Emergency management is a huge issue in cities. And the last big advancement in technology for physical AI is generation, which is the ability to interface with the physical world with natural language. And of course, you can do it in multiple different languages. So, if you put all these things together, you come up with a very interesting set of use cases. And I could talk all day about, hundreds of use cases, but, one use case, which I'm particularly passionate about, is traffic management. How many of you think traffic is an issue in Delhi, for example? Yeah, exactly. For those who didn't put a hand up, you're too shy. But, I'm from Mumbai, and when I was growing up, what used to take about 15 minutes takes about 2 hours. It's basically, even with the Sea Link Road, even with all of those things, because, in Delhi, for example, 2,000 new cars come onto the road every single day. Think about that, 2,000 new cars. So it's going to get worse. So you need some way to figure out how to manage this. And one of the tools AI gives you now, so right now, as you probably know, most of the signals in the city are basically timed, right? They go 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever the timing is. AI now enables you to collect information in real time and instrument signals across an area in the city or the entire city to make the flows much more efficient. One of the cities we worked with recently, they managed to reduce travel times and congestion by 53% in the first year that the system was installed. So not only do you get efficiency, they realized it actually is a lot safer because they can actually figure out what the safety issues are going to be with the traffic, the way they instrument the traffic lights. And it reduces pollution because the more cars wait at the intersection, the more they pollute. So this is one area that AI helps in that's literally having a massive impact. But actually, to the other part of your question, one of the challenges in the public sector is that there are lots of different public agencies which have their own data sets, their own budgets, etc. So take, for example, cameras that are in the city. You may not realize that some of the cameras are owned by the security people, some of the cameras are owned by the traffic people, some of the cameras are owned by the infrastructure folks, and they haven't necessarily to this day shared all this information, right? But you can only really benefit from AI if all this information is collected, consolidated, put into a nice vectorized database in a structured way, and made available for analysis in AI, right? Once you do that, you can do all these amazing projections into the future, correlations, etc., across a whole variety of different city functions. So I'll stop there, but
Thanks for that. I think, and we'll come back to this point you raised, Jumbi, and I think, Anshul, you also referred to it. How do you create the infra below the infra? In a way, data is a raw material for AI, right? In fact, for any software, data is a raw material. And for it to become effectively, this whole, agencies owning data and what kind of, so we'll come to that. I think that's a good thing to double click on, in my opinion. I think this is a real critical thing because the promise is there. How do you do it at scale and with less friction is a real question for us, right? With that, I'll kind of want to come to Mashal. I guess, Mashal, you work at some of the real vertical issues that the cities face, water, energy. So I guess what I'd like you to focus on is what do you see are the biggest pressures utilities like water, energy face in the modern cities? And how does vertical AI address some of these challenges differently from generic AI, right? Because you are working on vertical AI. And how can cities improve AI to water and energy service delivery?
Thank you, Viraj. I think, first of all, glad and honored to be here for this session today. I think we all are aware that today the world's population is heading towards 8 billion people, which means there are 8 billion opportunities to make a difference. And half of this population is already living in the cities. So as your population will increase, the infrastructure complexities are going to increase. And that is where AI addresses these complexities to build the smarter cities of the future. And what we believe that energy and utilities, they sit at the core of this transformation. Because when grid complexities increases, the real-time intelligence is needed. And for any intelligent city, it is always going to be defined by how much resilient and reliable services they provide to their citizens. And most of these cities, today they are digitally connected and they are customer-centric. So, but all of this, when AI addresses these challenges, it also brings some of the greatest pressures that the utilities faces today. And these pressures are across, three main mission-critical pillars, which is one is your customer, your workforce, and then your grid. And utilities are balancing these transitions, but at the same time, the challenges are growing, the complexities are growing. So at the customer level, the expectations are evolving, right? So the utilities are operating in the silos, and there is a connected systems that are required. The connected intelligence is required. And the workforce that is aging. So the new talent, they expect digital-first mobile experiences. And at the same time, when grid complexity increases, the utilities demands real-time intelligence, which means more predictive and not reactive. And more importantly, I think one of the other challenges we see is the climatic pressures, because with climate pressures, the utilities must deliver on to the net zero progress, and also how much intelligently are they able to integrate the renewables. So I think these challenges and complexities will grow. But what is required, I think, is the right orchestration and the right digital technologies to address these challenges. And this is where I think AI bridges the gap, and ensures that the service for the customers are being taken care, and there is a faster response time to the citizens, and no communities is left behind and no household is left behind. Millions and billions of people are being served with the digital technologies, with the AI, so that the information and the communications they expect from their service providers, those are being delivered and notified proactively. So I think these are some of these challenges, but to the point of the innovations, I think there are definitely some booming innovations and technologies that the utilities are expecting and the cities expect today. Industries are looking for, again, the customer experience innovations, which means more proactive channels of communications, the innovations like agentic AI or innovations like AI-powered chatbots where the citizens can real-time communicate with their service providers. And at the same time, I think on the workforce end, the industry is demanding to implement more AI use cases, which means, more use cases around scheduling and dispatching of the workforce that should be automated, or asset maintenance. And there are also additional parallel innovations that we see in the industry, like DER's implementations of renewables, solar, or the electric vehicles to manage the charging more efficiently. So I think these are some of those innovations which definitely the industry is demanding, and we see them growing. And AI is the key to these innovations. But we also believe that when we talk about AI, it is not the generic AI, because we need to understand that urban systems are very deeply interconnected. And the generic AI will only help analyze the patterns, because it doesn't understand how the infrastructure behaves or how the system behaves. So you need a vertical AI approach. So this is where, as an organization, we bring the vertical AI approach, which deeply understands the problems of the industry, so which connects the systems and understands that how the systems behaves. And our vertical AI models, they are trained on the grid data, the asset behavior, the workforce operations, and more importantly, the consumer realities, because we understand and we are rooted into the energy and water realities of the ecosystem. We understand the customer usage patterns, the behavior. So we need to move from a shift of insights to the action mode. And this is where I think AI comes, and it addresses these challenges, and it helps provides more proactive communications for the customers, and ensures that, the mission to drive, to engage, educate, and empower people across the globe, that is being served. And one another point that I would like to add is that obviously all of this that we have built today, and what industry should also be building, we should take the AI seriously, and we should build it with honesty, because energy and utilities, they are responsible for a very important infrastructure. And when you are responsible for such an important infrastructure, you can't take the things lightly. So industry demands partners who respect people, processes, stakes, which are things which are at the stakes. And I think this is where we are here not to replace people, but to empower people, to elevate people with AI. And this is where we also bring our philosophy of people plus AI, which means technology, when integrated with AI, it enables citizens to make smarter decisions, to make more informed decisions. So I think this is where I think the industry is going, and there are more and more demand of implementing the AI use cases. But at the same time, taking an example, let's imagine a city where AI predicts outages faster than it disrupts the life, or where the proactive notifications are being sent to the citizens than they expect, or the water infrastructure, which detects the leak and instantly fixes those leaks. So I think these are some of those business use cases which the industry is demanding, and we should be looking at. And this is where I think I feel that every step that we take towards, or every interaction that is happening on these digital platforms and the AI technologies, the vertical AI helps, and it takes us to one common goal, which is an empowered planet and an empowered people. So I think all I would say is that today the future is not that how fast these cities will grow, but I think how fast the infrastructure evolves and how fast and more affordable and reliable services we can give to the citizens all across the communities.
Thanks, Mashal. And I think one of the conversations we'll have as a follow-up conversation is what you spoke about is contextual AI in the sense that, what is real for Delhi versus Bangalore versus, traffic problem might be very different from Delhi, what it is in Bangalore. And as we were walking the previous session, Professor Reddy from CME was here, and he was talking to sovereign AI for every individual. So that whole, a push and pull which is there from generic to specific, right, from distributed to centralized, is a great conversation to have in the second round. But thanks for your inputs. Ujjwal, I'll come to you. I guess India is seeing a great infra push towards intelligent cities in coming years. And I mean, you work in the material side of things. What challenges do you see in this regard from energy requirements, critical material supply, and what can be done to overcome them? We'd love to have your views on that. Also, just from a resilience perspective, I think when you're growing fast, you will have unpredictable events, and resilience is super critical everywhere, but especially for economies and sectors which are growing fast. How do you see things like circular economy and e-waste management into building resilience? So over to you, Ujjwal.
Thank you. Firstly, thanks everyone. I got to know a lot more things than I knew before. And talking about intelligence, like all of you spoke about data, AI, intelligence, moving vertical AI. One thing which I've been talking about multiple places is when we talk intelligence, it's not weightless. It has a physical trail. And it needs a lot to build that infrastructure. I have, there are three challenges which broadly I'll talk about. First is energy, as it was rightly mentioned by some of us. There's a huge debate here, whenever I go, people talk about, AI for energy or energy for AI. Very interesting, because both of them are true. The idea is, how do you balance them? When we are thinking about smart cities, now we are talking about scaling intelligence. We are not talking about piloting anymore, we are talking about agents talking to each other. At this time, we need to be very cautious also from the energy front if our grids are being modernized at a pace which is higher than the demand. Because if it does not happen, then it will be energy for AI. Very simple. Going to my second point, when we are talking about intelligence system, when we are talking about real-time, real-time data accessibility or analysis, we are talking about edge AI at some point. What it also means is more chips. And more chips means more minerals. We saw during COVID, the supply chain was stuck, which created a lot of challenge for the semiconductor industry. When we are planning for scaling smart cities, we need to secure our supply chains. Because if we are not planning for those, we might get in trouble. Because at this point, if I'll tell you a little bit more about critical minerals, there are certain countries, particularly one country which is largely controlling the supply chain. People are trying to diversify, but it's not easy. Because from finding minerals to actually extracting it sometimes take from 7 to 25 years. But for scaling AI, we need this now. Here I go in the third aspect of it. So, like talking a little bit about the solution part. When I'm saying 7 years to 25 years, it's a lot, but we do have a circular economy going on. Can we retrieve these critical minerals out of electronics waste? Can we do that? Yes, we can. But the challenge is with the speed we want to grow, we need to mine more. And that's the reality. But how do we do it? How sustainably we do it? This is what will define how we scale our cities smartly. The third part is, as I touched upon it a bit, is embodied emissions. When we are building data centers, you do not, the day when you switch it on, people start talking about emissions from that day. But actually, the embodied emissions is like 30 to 40% before even you switch it on. And this is where we need to bring new emerging technologies. We need to support low carbon producers. One area which I feel could be very interesting is EACs, environmental attribute certificates, which I have seen being used in cement. I've been in particularly in hard to abate sector. I'm seeing it is being used like what it does is it helps you trade some of your emissions. At the same time, helps support some of the low carbon producers to scale, to bring those technologies to life. Broadly, these three places, these three areas, I feel are the challenges, and I also told some of the solutions which AI can bring in. So that's it from my.
Thank you, and we'll have one more round of quick questions, and then we'll come to questions from the audience. Fascinating conversation. I think 3 or 4 things I picked up. There was a kind of couple of you referred to data and how it becomes available for doing it. I think scale is super important. And I think we are at a stage now, this has to scale. This cannot be another interesting idea after another, right? So I think we'll double click on that. Also, I think I'm just emerging, that there's a lot of built up that needs to be done on cities, and you refer to the embodied emissions and material. Anshul, you referred to the planning. And all these places, you can set things right. And I know a lot of times we talk about smart cities and larger cities, but please don't forget, 70% of Indian cities, urban India, is less than 200,000 population towns and cities. So they're greenfield in that sense. So a lot of these built technologies can go there. I think both Gumbi and Mashal referred to, once they are built, how do you, create conditions so that they're experienced. So like, how do you manage, how do you make them resilient, whether it's traffic, whether it's utilities. So that's the other thing. And thirdly, we're talking about from a policy perspective, what does government need to do to make sure this can scale and this can actually really solve problems and fulfill its promise. So I think we'll do a quick fire now. So I think, Anshul, I'll come to you first, since you work in the government. If I had to ask 2 things, you think that governments, city governments or state governments or central government need to do to make sure the promise of AI to making cities a better place to live will be fulfilled, what will those be?
So quickly, Viraj, one thing which we need to do immediately is to strengthen over the achievements of Smart City Mission. We have IEEE's in all the smart cities. They have used IoT and some kind of sensor-based data collection, etc. has been done. We need to immediately strengthen that to the next level, get experts to man it, integrate with various sectors to collect data, and then sanitize it so that it can be utilized properly. You need a new set of experts in terms of, at the city level. So you need a data analysis expert, you need, the simulators, you need modelers, you need all these kind of people who can be engaged in the urban planning and urban governance setup. And they need to know how to utilize AI. Let me just tell you that AI is not a panacea for everything. Please let us understand this. It is just another tool which can help you make decisions faster, more objectively, and also it looks into future more objectively. As of now, it is just a kind of, based on some understanding people plan for future, but AI can give you a very, very accurate future projection which can be very useful. So that is definitely, so that infrastructure which is already there because of Smart City Mission, we need to strengthen that. So that is definitely one thing. The second thing is that we need to, there's multiple stakeholders. So private sector and government sector, multiple stakeholders are there. We need to bring them on board to, understand and accept a framework for data, sharing. So we need to have a data management kind of a framework where every stakeholder needs to, give access to data and have an understanding, an agreement how we are going to utilize it for public welfare. So these two things, thank you.
Thanks for that. Kambi, I'll come to you next. Since you see use cases all across the world, if I had to ask you...
Let's keep it at one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, actually true. So maybe one use case you see kind of happening at scale in next, 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've seen which is super exciting is very simple. It's actually the ability to translate languages in real time. The two massive impacts it has is, one, it increases citizen participation in civic and political life, right? So for example, in one city, they have a system where any citizen can get up, start talking in one of 60 languages and automatically displays in English. Then the official stands up, starts talking in English, and automatically translates to the person's language. Just that basic application has increased attendance in those meetings by 10x, because people who previously could not access information can now access it. So based on that, they've now actually provided this kind of access even on the website. And they've gone even one step further. They've got a little avatar that you can talk to in different languages. And again, the number of people who could not access these services because they couldn't navigate through these complicated menus to get a license or to get a permit can now simply talk and get all the information that they need, which makes a huge difference.
I just saw the clock. It was behind the flowers. Yeah. We have only 8 minutes. I'm sorry, Mashal and Ujjwal, if we can go to questions. I think if it's okay, we can just quickly go to the questions because I thought we had 15 minutes, but we only have 8 minutes. So I think we'll take 2 or 3 questions in a bunch, and then we'll create a... This lady here, can you... the mic say?
I can speak now.
No. You can use a mic.
Hi, thank you. My name is Supriya. I'm an urban planner. I did my PhD on planning for climate. A large part of decision making in cities is the preparation of the master plan and the urbanization strategy. So I'm very glad that I can ask the question to this panel. In terms of expert decision making, so not in terms of citizens' involvement, when experts, by experts I mean everybody, not just planners, have to make decisions on the master planning process 20 years from now or 30, even more now, that we think about uncertain futures, what is the 1 or 2 pain points that AI as a tool can help expert decision making for the future? And I mean longer term futures, maybe not the next 12 to 18 months, but let's say 20 years, which is the standard master planning life cycle in most cities of the world.
Yeah.
That's my
Thanks.
question. Maybe
we'll take 1 or 2 questions more, and then we'll create themes and go from there. Over there. And let's keep the questions brief, please, if we can.
Sure. Morning, my name is Piyush Tiwari. I work with the Save Life Foundation, also serve on India's National Road Safety Council. My question is pertaining to various data sets. AI sort of produces responses based on data sets, and what we are seeing is that even in urban infrastructure and safety, the data sets are quite disparate, and the interoperability of these data sets is quite limited. So is there an effort that is underway to create some sort of a backbone or some sort of a infrastructure based on which data can be collected and then fed into AI, so we can get smarter outputs out of that?
Super. One more question. Maybe you can ask the question. Somebody in the middle of the rows. Yeah.
Hello, I come from Colombia. My name is Juan Jose. Thank you for receiving me. I have only one question for Mr. Mishra. We have spoken about data integration, simulation, infrastructure, and scaling AI in cities. My question is this: even when data is consolidated across agency, how do we ensure that interpretation and prioritization are aligned? Sorry. And should we be thinking not only about data infrastructure, but also about structured decision protocols before scaling AI in urban governance? What do you think about objectivity in AI? Thank you.
Okay. One more question, and then we'll back. I think lady at the back.
Good morning, everyone. This may be a very rudimentary, very basic level question, but I am Kyatika. I work in a renewable energy firm. And I was wondering how power companies can play a role in urban planning and governance.
Okay. All right. I think we'll pause here. So there was one question on planning and how does long-term planning, what kind of expert decision making can be powered by AI. So any of the panel want to take that question? Anshul, take it. Okay.
Actually, if you ask me, nothing can be planned for 20 years accurately. But we do have a larger, the broad understanding of how a city is going to look after 20 years. So that's why we make the planning, so that every stakeholder is aligned and going in the same direction. But AI can give you a very accurate projection. We do projections for planning for population and for other things, or connected built-up area and all that. So that accuracy can be we can get from the using the AI, and that will be very helpful. But in any case, we have to understand that we always have to review the plans every 5 years, every 3 years, which is not happening in the city. So that is a big issue. AI can help you understand what has happened in last 3 years, which requires a change in the direction of the master plan. So definitely that is one thing.
Ujjwal, you want to respond to the question on what role power sector can play in the adoption of AI or?
Definitely. So I think a couple of things which I have seen particularly is, before I go there, I'll tell you how AI works is. AI broadly I see as an enhancer. If it is sitting on something on the right kind of stuff, it amplifies that. Talking about AI and power sector, I personally feel there are a lot of applications there, particularly when we spoke about digital twins earlier. And this area could be, I think, a lot of progress is being made. And during AI summit, I think DPI for energy is being launched.
Yeah.
I think so. Frankly, I can tell you I have seen applications. Do you want to comment on some detail, maybe?
Do you want to talk about AI and energy? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, that energy and utilities are very at the core of this, urban planning. And what I feel is that, with power, without power, you cannot run cities, you cannot run hospitals, you cannot have people, run at their homes. They cannot live without power, water or gas. So energy to me is a very important sector, and what is needed today is the real-time intelligence because of the growing problems.
Yep.
And that is where I think the service providers are looking forward to bring these technologies so that they implement the AI and they implement the right use cases, which drives real-time actions for their customers and which drives, I think, more informed decisions for their customers. So yes, definitely, I think AI plays a very important role in the energy and the power sector.
Yep. I think last question was, there was a question around data and how does data become available and interoperable. And you had a question on how do you govern the decision making on AI. So maybe, Gambi, I can ask. No, I think we still have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this interesting thing about data is, you know, the issue with data cleanliness, data accuracy, and all that has always existed. But now it gets exposed with AI because when you're actually trying to use it in a structured way and make sense of it and do analysis on it, you suddenly discover that all this data you've been collecting for many years wasn't as clean, you know, as you thought it was. So yeah, absolutely to your point, step number one before you do any kind of AI is to making sure you have clean, accurate data on which decisions are going to be made.
And anything you want to add, Anshul, on the decision rights?
So that question about data management, basically it's the policy input. You're asking the same question, and government should provide a framework for standardizing the data.
But there's a question on governance of decision making also. Maybe we can take it offline with the gentleman. Okay. I think we're run out of time. You've been an amazing audience. Thank you so much for listening in. Thank you, the panel. It was a great learning experience for me. And big round of applause for the panel, please. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining this panel. And yes, we must say that we often talk about intelligent cities and cities powered by AI and sensors, but the real question is intelligent for whom? So thank you to all the panelists for such a session. And yeah, so the next session is about to proceed, and we have just a small request that today all the sessions will be over by 4:30 p.m. So especially for the security protocols, we request all the audience to keep this thing in mind to exit the premises today by that time. Everything is fine. You can just. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining the next panel. We are about to start. Our speakers are on the way, so we can just start in next 5 minutes. Thank you.